This is the Muddy Boots Podcast, a podcast for those who have been or are stuck in the mud. Building a community of those who are with each other all the way. Hello and welcome to the Muddy Boots Podcast. This is episode 2. My name is Matt. I'm one of your hosts. I'm here with Roger Button. He's your other host. How are you feeling today, Roger?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I was feeling better. He told me not. I was slouching. Sit up straight. I can't reach the floor. But he's slouching, so I don't know why he gets to and I don't.
I set my camera to slouch.
That's just not right.
So, are you feeling pretty good today? Feeling good from our last, we had our first episode of the podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Feeling pretty good?
I am. I'm like I said, as long as we delve in and we don't talk about the weather.
Well, before we do get to the delving in part, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I tried the Oleato latte.
Yeah.
Have you tried one of those?
No, I don't like to drink things that have olive oil in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the whole point, though. Really get yourself flowing there.
Yeah. I'm good.
No issues?
No.
Okay.
No. I used to. When I had the lymphoma, things were a little rougher.
Yeah. Well, this is not sponsored by the coffee place that we are drinking the Oleato from, although I would say it is pretty good and you could try it, unless you're into craft coffee, and then maybe not. But this podcast is sponsored by somebody.
It
right?
is.
We have a generous sponsor.
We do. Washington Trust Bank is sponsoring this podcast, and we truly appreciate them. They are really working hard to be coming into the community and being part of it. And I appreciate that so much. I really, really do. So if you're looking for a bank, you don't need to look any farther than Washington Trust.
Yes. Our sponsor today is Washington Trust Bank. With over 40 locations across Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, Washington Trust is the oldest and largest privately held commercial bank in the Northwest. Washington Trust believes in doing what's right for their communities and is proud to sponsor YMCA of Columbia-Willamette. Washington Trust Bank, member FDIC. Did you do anything this last weekend of note, like noteworthy, anything fun?
Well, Lori and I went canoeing Timothy Lake.
Oh,
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Well,
besides canoe Timothy Lake.
We stayed in a cabin up there and just had a lot of fun. The thing about a canoe is it opens up to a real conversation. Once again, right? Some of our best talks are sitting in the canoe. And so it's just good to be out. I see God in nature, so I get relaxed out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what are we going to get into today?
That's up to you.
Okay. Well, I know that you've recently been to the doctor again.
I have.
So maybe context, right? Maybe
Sure.
we give people some context. You have had quite the flurry of doctors in your life over the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why is that? Let's give the viewer some context.
So I was having everybody thought it was diverticulitis attacks. And my doctor, she's amazing, and she actually, I credit her with saving my life. She took me into the hospital and ran a bunch of tests. And the test came back negative, but she didn't believe them, so she took me back in and did them again. And I got home about 6 o'clock at night, and she goes, "Go right back to the hospital. We're checking you in." That's all she said. And I could tell by the tone of her voice that this was serious. She was scared. And so we go into the hospital, and they put me on the cancer ward, but they said, "Well, that's the only open bed we got." I said, "Oh, okay." So I go up there. And they prep me for emergency surgery in the morning. And I come out of surgery with lymphoma written on the chart wall. I'm looking up at that going, now that's a big word.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean anything good.
There's nothing good that can come from that. And so, the best part was when staff would come visit me, they would stand at the door and just stare at the chart and go, hi. And I go, I'm over here, but that's what happened. They took 11 inches of my small intestine out, and I was going to start chemo in June, 1st of June of 2019. And on Memorial Day, my wife, Lori, had a brain aneurysm the day before I was supposed to start. And that was close. She almost died, 10 minutes from dying, and got her in there. And so I was taking care of her all through the summer. And so we put my chemo off until basically end of September, 1st of October. And so I went through that. I went through my first round of chemo. They found a spot on my lung, so they took out the upper right lobe of my lung. Then they started me up again with chemo. Now we're into 2020 with COVID. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, the day after my surgery for lung surgery, they kicked me out of the hospital and said, you can't stay. I have tubes coming out of me. And we're like, okay. And we didn't know what was going on. And so we got through all of that. And then they started me up again in January with more chemo.
This was 2021.
No, this is 2020 still.
Oh, still, okay.
Yeah, 19 to 20.
Okay.
And so I ended up with like 7 months of chemo. And I come out, I went in at 180, came out at 250 from the steroids.
Dang.
It was crazy. No hair, the usual. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about the whole piece with the chemo treatment is I called it the dairy farm. We're all hooked up like dairy cattle. And when you're sitting with a lot of people that are a lot farther down the road than you are, and you're having conversations, you realize things. Big stuff, little stuff, right? And we realize that, at this point in our lives, just about everything is little stuff. We'll make it big stuff, but it's little stuff. And that whole mountain out of a molehill, yeah. So I got done with that. Yeah. I got done with chemo in July of 2020, and it immediately gave me polymyalgia, which is fibromyalgia multiple. I was basically couldn't move. And from that, I had, 2 or 3 knee surgeries?
Yeah.
2 back surgeries, total shoulder replacement. The chemo killed all my joints. So I was going through all of that. My wife says, you need to write another book called After Cancer, because everybody was so excited. They say, hey, you beat cancer. And I'm sitting there going, this is worse than cancer.
Yeah.
And so we get all the way through, and then now we're in 2023, and I just finished up with my shoulder surgery and my last knee surgery, and I'm feeling really, really good. And then I just, day before yesterday, I get my blood work, and I've got elevated things and other things that aren't where they're supposed to be. They're really low.
Okay.
So that set off a bunch of alarms. I'm scheduled to go see my oncologist again now in September, 1st of September, a PET scan beforehand. So if you don't know what a PET scan, they check everything. They run you through everything. If there's cancer in your body, you're going to find it. So I get this, and I'm processing this. I hadn't told anybody this, right? And one of the staff walks in. They could see I'm off, right? I'm off. I'm just off. They go, what's wrong? So I told them. And they asked if I had told Lori yet. And I just said no. And they swore at me and said, you better tell her. And I go, I'm going to. I just, I don't know. And so my kids, from when I had lymphoma the first time, or the only time we'll say for now.
Yeah, let's
go with that.
go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. No power trouble. We're really upset because they thought I was holding stuff back from them. They didn't realize, So they kind of yelled at me and said, well, as soon as you find out anything, you're supposed to tell us. I said, okay, fine. So I go home. I tell Lori, and I tell her we got to tell the kids. So we tell the kids. And it's not a diagnosis yet. I was made very clear. It's just elevated blood work, right? Wacky blood work that's causing people to, And of course, I'm going, because I don't want to go through that again.
No.
And so I was talking to one of the staff, and he said, did you tell your family? And I go, yeah, I told the family. I told the kids. They don't know what to do about it. And he said, well, they can pray for you. And I go, well, yeah, they can. They can. I said, why don't you go ahead and tell them to do that? I don't have their number. So I gave him my kids' number. So kids, yeah, if you get a crazy person saying, pray for me, that's why.
Because they weren't going to do that without somebody prompting them to do it, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They probably, I don't know if they would or not, but I don't think so. Yeah.
And definitely not Lori. She wouldn't be praying for you.
Never. No.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like, come on.
I know. You're going to get me in all sorts of trouble, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah. It's your job.
So it's interesting because it puts you in the in-between, right?
Yeah.
I talked about this on Sunday.
Right.
Of being in between the place of, for you, cancer-free, and what the heck is going on with my blood cells going up. So in that place, in the in-between, and now that we talked about muddy boots, we talked about getting stuck in the mud, getting out of the mud. Now there's mud on the horizon.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that space? Like, how do you process that in-between place?
That's the thing. I mean, because I'm so spiritual, I yelled at God for quite a while. Did a lot of praying, crying, the first time around, right?
Praying, crying, cussing?
Huh?
Praying, crying, cussing, right?
Well, I call that spiritual words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
There you go. I'm laying in a hospital bed at 2 a.m. Everything's dark except the beeps of everything going off, doing it there. I got this notice at work. And anybody that's been around me knows people tend to hang around me, so I'm getting it in a crowd. I hadn't had time to process it, right? And so I'm kind of, and people are they're seeing I'm off. But then once I get to processing it, when I found out I had lymphoma, I never prayed for God to heal me. I said, if this is how you choose to take me out, I want to go out actually living out the things I'm professing, right? I want to be that. I want to go out well, finish well. And then, of course, I go through all this other stuff. And in my mind, because it's loud in here, the first thing I go to is God's funny. He's a funny duck. It gets me through all this other stuff just to give it to me again. Of course, I don't even know if I have it. But you know what I mean? That's what's going on. That's the tape, right? That's planned. And so, I don't know. We'll see. It's not the challenge that defines you. It's the response. I hope I respond well.
That's good. I feel like this would be a good moment for us to set some people free of some maybe bondage type of mindset. I feel like we were joking a couple minutes ago about the praying, crying, cussing, spiritual words. Yeah. I think all of us can relate, and you can relate, I think, if you're watching this as well. We don't always want to use nice words when we're in the in-between place.
No.
What do you think God thinks about that? When we're in our all up in our stuff, in our emotions, and our oh my God, I might have cancer.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not usually a time where I'm going to censor myself.
Right.
You think God can handle that?
That's yeah, I do. And here's why. I'm just a dad. It's all I ever wanted to be as a dad. People ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? I go, a dad. I could do pretty much anything I wanted. But except fly. I couldn't fly. I wore glasses. But I just wanted to be a dad. And so, when the kids were small and the Legos weren't going together or something that would just ruin their whole world and they're throwing a fit, I didn't get mad at them for it because it had blown their world up, right?
Right.
And so I just sat down and helped them walk through it and everything else. And that's how I see God. If God can't take my anger and my frustration, and if I can't come to him and just, poof, he's not a very big God. I have a sign in my chaplain's office that says you can cry, scream, and yell. You just can't hit the chaplain. So if you can cry, scream, and yell at the chaplain, I better be able to cry, scream, and yell at God.
Right.
So that's something. Relax. Relaxing your relationship with him. Just talk to him. Tell him what you really think.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to believe, too, if he's the good father, he's going to respond in kind, right?
Yeah.
And I think even for those of us, because I know we have people who watch, or I'm assuming we have people who watch this who are Christian, who are agnostic, who are atheists, who don't know what they believe, who maybe believe a different religion.
Right.
But I have to choose to believe that when I come to God like that he is a good father and he's going to respond to me. And so no matter what faith you might have or lack thereof, I feel like all of us can go to God in that way and perhaps even find him there if we're really honest.
Yeah, I think that's why I do so much better out in front of the church than in the church, is because in the church for so long, it was almost like you had to be perfect before you walked through the doors. Yeah. Right? Right? We all feel that. It's, you can't tell the people your stuff. You can't take your mask off in church. Look out. Right? Especially a pastor. So I take my mask off in church just to see what they're going to do with me.
Yeah, me too.
I know. It's kind of fun.
They haven't fired me yet.
Yeah. So and it's kind of fun. I enjoy it. And it seems to help people. But yeah, if you don't know, just talk.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, prayer is just talking to God.
Right.
We try, there's no formula. There's no, you're not chanting something up and making something. You can't make him do anything.
No.
No, you can just talk to him.
Yeah.
So
no, it's good.
Relax in it. How's that?
Yeah. So back when you were in, I remember this, when you were going through treatment, I remember one particular time I came to visit you.
Yeah.
And you were talking to the nurses, or, you were helping all the nurses, giving them advice, doing your chaplain thing, Chaplain Roger, right?
Yeah.
And I remember you saying to me,
no, one of the nurses said to you,
oh, that's what it was.
He doesn't even get a day off when he's in the hospital.
Yeah. And I said, well, he can't stop being who he is.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that. Who are you?
Yeah, that's good. So I was in and out of the hospital a lot because we had a lot of things going on. And so at this particular time, I was in the hospital with an old guy who was dying. He was in the midst of dying. And his family was coming in, and the hospice nurses were coming in. Everybody's coming in, and then my nurses were coming in. And I'm walking the halls with his family as we're walking through his death. And that's where the nurse was like, I can't, he's not even done get a day off.
Right.
But I'm retired. This is what I would do anyway. So I don't mind doing it.
Right.
I can't not do it. I think, when people wonder, the cliche of the calling, right? Everybody goes, oh, there's the calling. When you're called, it's never easy. At least it's been my experience. It's never easy, but it's the hardest job you'll ever love. And you always have the energy for it. I don't care how sick you are. And so that's kind of where I live, is in that.
Yeah. And what I love is that that's your legacy, right? That's what you're trying to leave here at the YMCA. It's one of the things, not the only thing.
Sure.
You're highly skilled at other things as well, but this is one of the things that you're really trying to leave a legacy of at the YMCA. So that brings us to chaplaincy. You have an entire program built now that has taken years to build, of course. Let's not just, it's always the thing of, what I heard somebody say this recently. God takes a long time to do something right away. In other words, what we think is God doing something in a moment has really taken quite a long time to happen. Like chaplaincy, right?
Yeah.
It's going to seem like, man, all these chaplains all of a sudden.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of groundwork laid. So talk about, like, what have you been trying to do to bring, I'd say, real chaplaincy to the YMCA?
Yeah, there's a misconception. People really don't know what a chaplain is or does, right?
Right.
They think, oh, he's a pastor. He's somebody who's in the church or whatever. They don't know. And I like to put it this way. All radiologists are doctors, but not all doctors are radiologists. I've got basically the highest level of, I've got my MDiv. That's the cream for being a pastor, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, you can go get your doctor of ministries in something, but without your MDiv, it's just something. And, but then on top of that, to be a chaplain, you've got to do residency work. You've got to do all of this other stuff that's on top of it, just like a radiologist does once they become an MD, right?
Right.
So it's that kind of thing. And so I've had a lot of well-meaning pastors that were horrible chaplains. Horrible. They just didn't get it, and they left some damage and some carnage. And so, because I'm an adjunct professor for George Fox, and I've been that for a while, I was talking with my bosses at George Fox, and we were sitting there discussing things, and we came up with the certificate in chaplaincy program. And so it's a 2-year program. It's not easy. It's well worth it. It is college. So there is work. And, but at the end of the day, you have the tools in the toolbox. I stripped down all the things you don't need and kept the things you do need, and with others. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. We have 14 people in it right now, and they're coming out of it, and some of them are in your church. And I think maybe you can talk to how you're seeing their growth. And
oh, yeah. I mean, I watch them, the way I think the biggest growth is the way they interact with people, the way that they see people, and the idea that in their service, actually, just, I mean, the truest form of ministry is service, right? We talk about this a lot. Jesus said even to us that the servant, right, the leader, the one who is the servant of all, right, the greatest, is the servant of all. And so I think one thing that chaplaincy really helps people see is what service really is. What does it look like to sit with somebody and listen to them for an hour about, or longer, about just listen.
Be present.
Yeah, be
Ministry
present.
of presence.
Yeah.
You're not going to fix anything. I can't bring your child back, but I can sit there with you in the midst of it.
Right. Nothing
that I say is going to help. Probably hurt. So I'm not going to say anything, but I'll sit with you.
Yeah.
We in chaplaincy in the YMCA, we call it, we Matthew 25 people to death, right? When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you comforted me. When I was in prison, you came to visit me. When you did for the least of these, you did for me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we do. And like I said with the tat, when we grab on, we hang on. And we'll walk with you all. We have story after story after story of things and lives that have been changed.
Yeah.
Just because we came alongside.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, which brings us to that whole thing, which is, I think, again, you said people don't know what chaplains are. You laid out sort of the academic side of that, mm-hmm. but there's a whole helps side of that is, I think, missed by a lot of people. Like I think some people just think, hey, you're in the office there and you can counsel me, right? Or you can listen to what I have to say. Mm-hmm. That's a very small part of what you do and what your chaplains in training do.
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe just give us a rundown. Again, these are things we'll probably get into deeper on, future podcasts, but just for the sake of the conversation now, what are some of the things that these chaplains in training and yourself do on a regular basis to really better the community and be of service to the community?
Yeah, it's different every day, and there's just not one formula. One of the latest things, I talk about this. As you drive the car of life down the road of life, you seldom get to see what God's up to as you look through the windshield of the car of life. It's only when you glance in the rearview mirror do you get to see what he's been doing all this time. The problem is you can't drive the car of life down the road of life staring in the rearview mirror. You run into a tree. So you have to look through the windshield, and that's called faith. So I'm up in Ridgefield doing some event this a few weeks ago, and this woman walks up and goes, "The YMCA. Oh, I love the YMCA. Oh, they changed my life." And we're sitting there looking at her and talking with her. She goes, 11 years ago, I walked from Ridgefield to Vancouver, walked into the Clark County Family YMCA to get away from an abusive husband. And I met with somebody there, and that person got me out of it, into safe housing, got a free lawyer for me so we could get these things done. Now I work with domestic violence victims and get them out, all because of that.
Wow.
And what she didn't know when she was telling me the story was she was looking at the guy who she walked into that office with.
Was you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when she figured it out, she just gave me a hug and was crying, was, oh my God, and changed her life. She's in a much better place. She was in a pretty bad place when I met her the first time. And you don't always get to see the end result.
No.
But you get to know it's there sometimes.
That's an amazing story. I think about you and I and Josh.
Yeah.
He was a homeless individual who you drove by. I mean, you could tell the story, that part of the story even better, but you drove by him for months, right?
Yeah, I drove by and I'd look at, and he was scary.
Yeah.
He was kind of scary looking. And God would say, roll down your window and say hello. I'm like, no, I'm not going near that. And every day as I'd come into the Y, there was Josh. I didn't know it was Josh at the time. And he's just sitting there. And finally, one day, I mean, this is how my relationship with God is. Someday I'll tell you about the telemarketer story, but I finally got mad. I said, fine, I'll do what you said. I rolled down the window. I said, good morning. He said, good morning back. I said, I'm Roger. Well, I'm Josh. I said, I'm the chaplain at the Y, just around the corner. If you get tired of sitting on this corner, come see me. We'll get you worked up. Month goes by. He's in my office. And the story went from there.
Yeah.
Just because I finally submitted.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah, I remember you calling me that day is in your office. You're like, hey, we got a video project.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait up. Like, we scheduled something. You're like, no, I need you to come in today.
Right now. Yeah. It was, I mean, and because we'd done this for a number of homeless people, but he was the first one that said, I'll let you video the process.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever seen the video or not. It's pretty cool.
We'll put a link in this.
Right.
Yeah, we'll put a link so people
that's
can.
a pretty cool video and he's doing great. I mean, this guy's doing great now.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And once again, to say we don't always get to see that end result, but when we do, I mean, that's a gift.
It's a gift.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, your chaplains are running around town now doing all of this type of stuff.
Open house ministries.
Yeah.
We had a SIDS death, basically. A baby died. And their chaplain was on vacation, so I got the call from Renee, and so I go over there and I brought my chappies with me, and oh my God, watch him work. It was impressive. Yeah. And we didn't leave. We got it. We did all sorts of things, including change her room from where it happened so she wouldn't have to live there into another one. Grief and loss classes, working with the staff because of trauma. It was a big deal. Yeah. We were just glad we could help.
So how many more, I know you've got big dreams for this. So what, we're still looking for chaplains. You're still getting more and more in the door. What's like, when you think about your big dream with this, when you're ready to actually retire from the Y, not from being who you are, of course, but when you're ready to retire from the Y, what do you want to see? What does your mind eye see as far as like this whole thing? Yeah.
Well, Lori always said it would be a shame to see this die with you. And she goes, I just know God's got a bigger thing. And so we built this program. It's asynchronous online, and asynchronous is just a fancy word for saying you don't have to be any specific place at any specific time. So you can do this whole thing. And we have people starting to come from, I think, Tennessee. There's a YMCA in Tennessee that's sending people through the chaplain training now. And so it's growing. And it just takes time. You water it, you seed it, it'll grow. It's a good program.
Yeah, I mean, it is an amazing program, and it's done so much good in the community. I know that it's affected Rhapsody, which is the church that meets here at the Clark YMCA. I know that it's now making its way through the entire association, which is an amazing thing. And so I guess just keep a lookout for it, right? This is stuff that's going to be going on. And
if you know somebody that is interested in this thing or wants to help, give us a call. Yeah. Give us a call.
What do you, just to our viewers and who, like, what's the heart of a chaplain? What do you look for in a person when you're thinking this would be a great candidate?
Yeah. Basically the affinity of a chaplain is it's not about me. They love people, I love God. They love God. And they're not trying to convert everybody, right? Right. I show people the love of Christ, and I leave the conversion up to God. It's, and people go, oh, that doesn't work. And I go, well, we stopped counting baptisms in our pool at 1,000. So something's happening. I don't know what, but something's going on, And it's not like we're out there drugging people or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, or feeding them no, we're just, when I was going through cancer, I had more people go, I don't know what it is about you, but you got some piece about you, and I want a piece of that. You can go through this and be okay. What is it? Well, that opens a conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's all it is.
Yeah.
So, the heart of a chaplain is love God, love man, serve both.
Succinct and easy, right?
Yep.
So there you go. I love it. I would say if you're listening and you just feel that what Roger just said, what he described is you, give us a call and let us know that you're interested in that, in pursuing chaplaincy. Again, we're still, we're going to wrap up, but we're still seeking names for the people who are watching this. So, the other, I had in the first episode, I think I had a thought. Oh,
that's good.
About the muddy booters didn't work. No. I thought muddy boots wearers, but that doesn't work either. So so far I'm coming up short on names. Don't think you've probably had a chance to think about a name either. So
no, I really haven't.
So we're really what Roger and I are really saying is we're counting on you to come up with a name for yourselves. So what do we call you? And let's keep it PG in the chat, of course. But I think that there needs to be a name for those who are with us all the way, right? The people who are wearing muddy boots, who are together, maybe it's the armor bearers. I don't know, but either way, I think that there's what we want to do eventually is grow a community here. This is where we want this to be a place where we're taking the mask off, where even we hope to meet some of you, to talk to some of you. We have plans to do, like a live event where we can see you in person and meet some of you, hear your story. You get to hear us jabber all the time, and we'll have guests eventually, but we want to hear your story too, because your story matters, and that's part of this whole thing. Is we're wanting to start a greater conversation here, and to invite people into what the YMCA is doing, but even larger than that, what's happening in our lives, and how can we support each other. So, with that, continue to share these podcasts as you see people. Maybe you know of someone who could really use today's. Share that with them. Let them know, hey, this is something that I'm into, and just share it along. So subscribe, share. You can hit the notification bell so that every time that we're gonna release a podcast. And other than that, we love you very much, and we're glad that you are listening. So have a great day.